Yo people, welcome back to Bricks with Tips. My name's Tayo Oguntonode. I'm a content creator, TV presenter, and co-founder of Bricks with Tips, which I run with my wife, Antoinette. Now, we've been running this platform for coming up to 6 years, and we run it to help people be better with their finances and hit their property goals. Now, you might be thinking, who's this guy and this guy in a basketball jersey? What can he tell me about property, right? Well, I've been in the property game for 10 years, and Antoinette and I have a passion for helping people with property, which is probably more important than those 10 years because we genuinely care about outcomes. Now, if you're new here, you'll find that in due time. If you're old here, welcome back. You already know our game. We're here for you guys, and just to make sure that you guys can get as much information as you can get to help your property journey. Well, in this video, we're talking about how to buy a property with low income in 2025. Let's break this down first of all. Look, buying a house, most people would put down, let's say, a 10% deposit and then 90% mortgage. The mortgage that you get is the majority factor when you're buying a home, and that is based on your income. So if you feel like you've got a low income, you may feel like it's tough for you to buy a house. Now, the first thing I want to say is that it's not a you problem, it's a UK problem. Check out the reason why I'm saying that, right? And it's not really UK only, it's kind of like globally, but we're speaking about the UK, so let's break into it. Let's break that down. What I mean by that is that wages are low across the nation in comparison to what house prices are. If you look at like a little timeline, you'll see that house prices have absolutely whooped wages. Wages have basically stayed the same for a long period of time while house prices have increased. So that's why you'll find that it's incredibly hard to buy a property. Now I say harder because a report recently came out by Halifax that showed still, yet again, for another year, hundreds of thousands of first-time buyers were able to buy their first home. Now, I think buying your first home is possible today, even on a low income, which is why I'm making this video. 2025 is possible, 2026, 2027. But I think that when we get to 2028, in any major city in the UK, Birmingham, Manchester, London, maybe Leicester, major cities in the UK, I think that the only people that are going to be getting on the ladder are people that have got an inheritance, people that have come from rich families, and not your everyday people anymore. That's what I think. Let me know what you think about that take in the comments below. Tayo's 2028 take, put a hyphen, and let me know what you think. But guys, let's break this down. What is a low income? In my opinion, a low income is, no, I'm not going to state a figure. Come on, you already know this channel, right, is, how do I put it? This channel is really for the masses, right? I understand what the average salary is in the UK. We're very, very hyper aware of how others may feel when it comes to wages and stuff like that. And we really want this channel to be able to help everybody. So I'm gonna say to you that a low income is just relative, and it's what you determine as a low income. The reason why I say that is that if you calculate everything that I've done in my career, all of my property income, all of my salaried income for all 32 years of my life, right? I've just exposed my age. Guys, I'm 32. But for all 32 years of my life, if you did that, yeah, you would find that there's someone out there in this world that earned all of that income in a month. You would. So this is why money is relative. However, if we're speaking about the UK and low incomes in the UK, I want to say to you that a low income is whatever you think is a low income in your head. The reason why I say that is that there's people out there that are on what they deem as a low income, but it's in their head. And there's people, and because they think they're on a low income, they've mentally blocked themselves from buying a property. When in actual fact, there's people on less than what they earn buying property successfully because they lived life with no limits and no mental blocks. I say that to say as well, and I say that to say a lot. Someone mentioned it in the comments, but Halifax did a report recently, and there was over 300 first-time buyers in 2024. So it's kind of like still, yeah, all of these trials and tribulations when it comes to buying a property, people are still finding it possible. So you can definitely do it. So guys, in this video, very briefly, I'm going to go through 6 ways of buying your home with low income, your first home with low income, right? Sorry, I keep looking at the time and I'm wearing a basketball jersey because I need to go for the school run. So I'm trying to drop the gems for you quickly. This is the only time I can get to film. Drop the gems for you quickly, go for the school run, then I'm going to go play some basketball. So guys, bear with me. You know me, I'm still going to prioritize you guys and drop these gems. So let's get into it. Number one, get real about your budget and also your area, right? So if you may or may not know, but most lenders will do 4.5 times your salary, right? I love using 4.5 times because there's plenty of lenders that will do 4.5 times. There's a good amount of lenders that will do 4.7 times the salary. There are some lenders that will do 5 times your salary. There are some lenders that will do 5.5 and some lenders that will do 6 times. But start off with 4.5 times your salary unless you go to a mortgage broker who will tell you exactly how much you can afford. So either do 4.5 times or see a mortgage broker. If you want to see a mortgage broker, just reach out to us. Our details are in the description below. So still on number one, right? The reason why you get real about your budget is that you find out a number, right? And that number might be that, okay, cool, I can borrow 180,000. Now, I said get real about your budget, right? This is real figures. The thing I love about numbers is that numbers have no emotion, right? If you've done the calculation and you've seen a mortgage broker and they said you can borrow 180, no matter what way you look at it in the light, like it doesn't change. 180 is 180. That's what we're dealing with. And I'm going to get onto that in point number 2. So if you can borrow 180 and you have, let's say, a 40K deposit, let's just say, right? You can't look for 4-bed houses in London. Just know that. And this is why I say get real, right? If you still want to buy your property, then you may have to look outside London. It seems simple, but you need to get real. I often mention, and sorry if you heard this before, when I bought my first home, it was simply a decision of where could I afford. I could only borrow about £130,000 for my first home, right? 135,000 pounds. I simply bought the closest place that 135,000 borrowing could get me, right? It was far, but I simply just saw where it could get me. And sometimes that's what we need to do, get real. And the thing is, have foresight and believe, right? And I'm going to get into number 2 with having foresight and believe as well. Get real, find out the numbers, and then go from there. Now, number 2, which is an extension of number 1. When you get real about your budget and your area, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to make a plan. Now, your plan is going to have one of 2 things. It's either going to be to execute on your existing salary or use some of the strategies we're going to speak about a bit later to inflate that income, see where that takes you, and strategize on buying somewhere more comfortable or closer. Now, this might not make sense for now, but what I'm really saying in number 2 is that you just need to be super duper intentional with everything you need to do. I mentioned that I could only borrow 135,000. Don't be put down by that. When you have strategy, it's fine. I had strategy. That first property is what allowed me to build a multi-million pound property portfolio today. And the property portfolio has been in multi-million pounds, not just after 10 years. It's been like that, before 10 years. So it doesn't take 10 years. When you get on the ladder, as they call it, there's a reason, because you start building equity and you're able to do a lot more with your money. Now, I'm going to double down again. You might be thinking, number 2, strategy, that doesn't really mean anything. Guys, trust me, it does. If you're on a low income, I always mention that in those cases, you've got to do more than everybody else has to do. Somebody who is a flipping like tech architect or whatever all of these things are, STEM, they might be earning 250,000, 300,000 a year, salaried. Yeah, they don't really have to have strategy. They see the house they like, they'll go for it. Do you get what I'm trying to say? When you've got a low income, you have to be a lot more intentional. So strategize, think about exactly what you do want to do, exactly what you want to buy, and the compromises you're willing to make as well. Number 3, if you're on a low income, prioritize saving. Now, this is going to do 2 things, right? So obviously you're going to save your deposit, but if you're on a low income, it's also going to make you comfortable with the fact that a good amount of your low income is going to go to a mortgage at some point. Because what a lot of people do is when they stop saving for that deposit, they start spending it on their mortgage. Now, what you really want to do is that when you get a mortgage, you want to be comfortable knowing that you can still run your life paying a certain amount towards a mortgage, basically. This isn't to say that your whole life has to be centered around getting a mortgage, but if you're saving like 5% of your income, 1, it might take you, and you're on a low income, 1, it might take you a long time to get to that deposit, and then B, you might not be used to having any household expenses, basically. Now, this would be the same if you were paying rent as well, because mortgages and rents for the same property don't differ that much. but get used to saving a good amount. There are ways to save faster. Guys, I've mentioned a lifetime ISA several times before. It's a government scheme where you put in £4,000. You can put in up to £4,000 a year. You'll earn interest on it, and the government will give you a 25% bonus annually. There are some restrictions though. It can only be used if you're buying a home or for retirement. In this case, we're only going to be using it for buying a home if you're watching this video. If you withdraw it for something out, you can be penalized. It's only for properties up to 450,000. So if you're buying a property for 500K, you're gonna have to withdraw it and be penalized. And then, yeah, penalized once again. And then finally, if you're withdrawing it within the first year, you'll be penalized as well, because you can only use the money in it if you've had the lifetime ISA for a year. Number 4, consider schemes. Now, I know people are very skeptical about schemes, and I mentioned a lifetime ISA, but I don't really see the lifetime ISA as a scheme, because so long as you follow the rules, it's just free money from the government. Now, schemes wise, right, there's 3 main schemes, people that provide schemes: lenders, developers, and the government. Understand why each of them are offering their scheme. So the government offers it because they need to increase home ownership in the UK. Developers offer it because they need to sell their properties. And lenders offer it because they need more market share, need innovative ways to get more people in. Now, with a lender, most of the cons of a scheme is that they're going to charge you a bit more interest. If you're comfortable with paying that interest, some schemes can work out for you. For example, there's schemes that from certain lenders that instead of doing 4.5, they'll do 5.5 or 6 times, and so on and so forth. Or there's some schemes from developers that if you're on a low income, they might let you rent a property, then move into that new build property, or maybe they'll allow you to put down a low deposit, or maybe they'll allow you to do a deposit boost, which means that you don't actually have to borrow as much, and so on and so forth. So make sure you tap into schemes to see what is available out there. As well as finding out what's available, guys, understand. This life is about understanding. Particularly pay attention to the cons. Once you understand the cons, you can navigate the space quite well. Number 5, improve your credit score. So when we're talking about some of these schemes or things that may be available to you, quite a lot of the time, they don't want to do 2 things, right? They don't want to offer you more money and take the risk on you because of your credit. You kind of want to give them less to think about. So in the process of going through this kind of phase with a low income, you kind of want to think about improving your credit score as well. And improving your credit score, it can be free as well. You want to pay your debts off on time. Don't maximize your credit cards. Get on the electoral roll, and you can think about getting a credit builder card as well. Right, guys, so for the final ones, I think they're super, super important. The first one is explore joint mortgages and co-buying. Now, you've heard Antoinette and I speak about this a lot. The reason why we speak about it is that a 2023 report and 2022 report from Halifax said that the majority, 6 out of 10 first-time buyers, are buying with someone. Sometimes we think that we're on an island, right? And we're not paying attention to trends. Trends are important, guys, right? It's important because it shows you an indication of where things are going, right? When it comes to buying jointly, I often mention to people that this happens in other asset classes as well. Like, it's not completely accurate comparison, but think about things like stock splits, right? When Apple hits like a really, really high figure, whatever the figure is, I can't remember, but they split the stock, right, by 2 or by 4, so people can buy a smaller amount. The amount that they own stays the same, right, but it's just priced a lot better. The reason why I say that is that a lot of us are living in places whereby we could be buying with a friend to make it possible. We could be buying with a sibling to make it possible. And that will allow us to get on the ladder and benefit from equity, and then we go off to buy our own places elsewhere. I've seen it happen a lot of times. And sometimes you've got to ask yourself, what is the alternative? You don't buy with your brother this year, and you don't buy with your friend also this year. A lot of the time, what might happen is that you start renting with a stranger. Right? It does happen all the time. So consider that when it comes to buying with someone. But also when you're buying with someone, make sure you get legal advice as well to make sure you're signing all the right contracts. And finally, my final one is, and I don't want to be condescending, but earn more, right? Let me adjust the microphone for this one. This one is less property content. This is kind of like, I'm just going to rant, right? We've been tricked in the UK, right? We've been tricked in the UK to thinking that certain salaries are high when they're not. Like, there used to be this raving about 100K salary in the UK, right? And it being a huge achievement. But in actual fact, 100K in America is kind of like the standard. It's much closer to the standard, right? Salaries are crazy low in the UK, but it doesn't mean that that has to be your reality, right? So I'm going to speak about different ways that you can earn more. Learn from people. Focus on people in your career. Curate your timeline to people in your career that are earning more, right? The ways they did it. Did they stay in the same company for long? Did they move companies quite a lot? Did they do exams to upskill themselves? What exams did they do? How much did these exams cost and how much did their salaries go up by? We live in a time where social media is giving away all of this game for free. You don't know what you don't know. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is that on our channel, we strongly believe that education is as good as money, because hopefully me saying this to someone is going to allow someone to go and take the initiative, go and look and find a way that they can increase their salary. Maybe you need to pivot industry. Maybe you have the skill set where you can pivot to a different industry and earn more. The next thing is maybe build a business. And I know that sounds quite up in the air, but there are many things that you can do. Myself, I'm in property. You can get into a property business. There's many different businesses that you can do, or side hustles that can increase your earnings. Once you build a viable business, this can, so long as you're paying taxes on it and you're filing your returns, you can use that towards your mortgage as well. Guys, earning more shouldn't be something that you should limit yourself to. Sometimes you have to be defiant, and sometimes you have to have audacity. When they're saying that in this career, the maximum salary is typically this, in your head say that they're not talking about you, because they're not, right? And I'm speaking from somewhere where I'm not in a corporate space anymore, but I experienced that in a corporate space. Like, my uni grades weren't exciting. I didn't get on a grad scheme, but I worked for a lot of the biggest investment banks, right? Eventually. And that was through God's grace, first of all. Because I wouldn't say I was underqualified, but I wasn't supposed to be in those positions, right? But by God's grace and sheer audacity and just being defiant, I've got many, many stories which I won't go through this video, where they told me no, and lo and behold, I was found in places where they said I couldn't go. And I want that for some of you guys watching this video today, because increasing your income is one of the easiest ways to begin or continue your journey in buying your first home. And the reason why I say that as well is that I always mention that I was at a point where certain times I'd apply for a job and I tell them, no, I need this salary because this is how much I need to buy a house. So there was no negotiation. Not there was no negotiation, but they understood that, yeah, like, I'm not really on negotiating that much for this one. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think about these tips. I have put some information in the description below that you asked for, and I will also add any extra resources that you may need. Once again, if you want to buy your first home in 2025, I'm hosting a webinar where it shows the 5 steps anyone can take to buy their first home in 2025. So make sure you tap into that. The link is in the description below. If you've been watching this video, if you watch more than 2 videos, guys, please just subscribe. It helps keep the channel alive. Make sure you like, and please drop a comment as well. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.